the MINIS series.
Today's mini is our very first one that came out exclusively in Europe, or more specifically, Finland! Because that's where the developer's from. When I was first going through the minis list, I recognized this game from its incarnation on Newgrounds, but as it turns out, this game actually has 3 different releases. As far as I can tell, the very first version of Tiny Hawk was developed in 2008 for Ludum Dare 11 as one of the entries, but I can barely find a trace of it online. Kinda looks like that construction action minigame I looked at in the Pokemon e-card video. You jump and grind on rails to collect objects within the level, which are huge compared to later iterations. This version was a little rough, but establishes the core ideas. 2 years later in 2010, a redone version of the game was released on Newgrounds from the user Pakuja. This is the screen name used by the developer, who made every version of Tiny Hawk. The Newgrounds version has brand new graphics, features, and contains 32 different levels. Level designs have been trimmed down compared to the massive ones in the original version, and they flow a lot better as now there's a clear path to take. There's also new obstacles such as grass that slows you down and water you can fall into. When you finish a level, you're given a rank based on how much time you took, meaning you can keep replaying levels until you get the highest rank on all of them. Tiny Hawk was a personal favorite of mine back in the day, and clearly others thought so as well according to its 4.36 user rating. A game this good getting a console release is a no-brainer, and 2 years later we would get just that. The minis version came out first, with phone ports following a few months later. Yes, ports. While I can only find official information regarding the iOS release, I was able to download an APK of an Android version, so one clearly existed at some point. All 3 of the console versions of Tiny Hawk are the same outside of the control method, so we're just going to be taking a look at the mini. Once again, the graphics have been completely redone and there's been a big bump in overall presentation. Levels now have a definite endpoint with a checkered flag, and the red diamonds have been changed to soda cans. It also added an additional music track that, combined with a changing time of day, gives a nice sense of progression. Other than that, however, it's exactly the same as the Newgrounds version, just with a different coat of paint. All of these level designs are exactly the same, it just doesn't seem that way initially because you're no longer able to see all of it at once. Because you now complete levels by grabbing a checkered flag, this counter at the end for the objects seems to have replaced the grading system. The game keeps track of your times for each level, but there's no grading here. This version has very little replayability because of that, and I was able to 100% it in under 20 minutes. Tiny Hawk is a good game at its core, but for the console version, you basically trade presentation for a lack of features that were in the Newgrounds version. This is the exact same sentiment a lot of reviewers at the time shared, and I can see that Pakuja eventually dropped the price by half. As it stands today, I think Tiny Hawk is a good game if you enjoy this sort of thing. It's very well made and I ran into literally 0 issues. A very impressive feat. But the minis release lacks content that was present in the Newgrounds version, which is available for free and I think is the way to go.
The MINIS series.
So to start things off, this is technically not Solitaire. This is Klondike, a type of Solitaire. Solitaire, or Patience, essentially refers to different types of card games. That's an oversimplification, but it's all you really need to know. There's no reason to go into the history of why we call it something different than what Europe does. I'm American. We just do things differently to overcomplicate them for no reason. You're probably aware of Klondike Solitaire as it's shipped on over 1 billion stinking Windows PCs, known as Microsoft Solitaire. Again, this is still just Klondike, as those same versions of Windows had other Solitaire games like Free Cell and Spider. So, why am I explaining all of this? Well, as it turns out, there's at least 3 card games minis. All of them have more types than the last. This is the only mini that contains 1 type, and just like with the Sudoku Games episode of PSPMan, I fully intend to teach you how to play each one. I'm doing the Klondike variant first, so it'll take less time in the future when we get to minis with more modes. Also, I'm pretty sure most of these games just use the standard 52 card deck, so unless there's something different, I won't mention it in the future. Hey, what up? It's me from the editing phase. So, when I said the previous section, for some reason, I forgot about the existence of this game. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'm going to get this game, and then I'm going to look at all of the types of card games that are included in both minis and this game, and double check to make sure there's not another PSP game I'm forgetting that's a physical release. But I'll probably teach the bulk of them in actual PSPMan episodes, but if there's any that are not addressed, I will probably teach them in minis episodes. Klondike is pretty easy to play. Basically, you get dealt this field and have to try and move everything into the 4 foundations in the upper right by suit, starting with aces and going 2, 3, 4, you get the idea. You can move cards around in the tableau area by building them down in alternating colors so you can reveal more cards. So this black 7 of clubs, red 7 of diamonds, and black 3 of clubs can all be moved on top of other cards because they're one number smaller than them and are the other color. I can now reveal this new card from the tableau pile. Nothing else I can do, so I need to start drawing from the stock. As I draw cards, they get placed right next to the stock in the waste. Still can't do anything, so I'll draw another. Now we have a black king, so I'll place that in the free space and then place this red queen of diamonds on top of it, allowing me to reveal a new card from the tableau pile. The goal is to slowly make your way through revealing cards and moving built piles back and forth until you get aces or ones in this game. I don't know why the heck they did that. It's not wrong, it's just dumb looking. You can stick aces in the foundation and then build up the foundations from the field until everything is sorted into them. Simple enough. In my opinion, Klondike Solitaire is the easiest solitaire to learn and is the only one I actually know how to play as of making this video. Klondike is the name of an area of Canada where the Klondike Gold Rush happened, so I imagine it got its name because you're digging through the mountains for gold. Anyways, how is this mini? It's alright. The controls are a little weird to get used to, but end up being really convenient. You use L and R to move up and down stacks so you can grab them from wherever you want. They also give you the 2 draw types, triple and single card, which, in my opinion, is an absolute necessity for Klondike Solitaire. Problem is, this one lacks another feature I find to be integral: an undo button. I always found Klondike Solitaire appealing because of the organizational aspect. It feels good to sort the cards into the correct places, making moves until you get everything in the foundations. It's relaxing. However, winning isn't always a guarantee. Through no fault of your own, you're going to lose way more than you win in Klondike. You win more consistently in draw 1 versus draw 3. I played this for 40 minutes and it took me 4 draw 1 games to get a win, whereas it took me 14 draw 3s to get a win. There's no worse feeling in solitaire than playing a game for a long time only to find out your field is bricked and you can't do anything. However, while playing, there may be instances where you have the option to move 2 cards onto the same spot, so there's essentially a fork in the road. I've had games in the past where sometimes if you undo all the way back to that critical move, you can take the other path and win. Winning in Klondike doesn't really matter because it's a single player game, but it feels good. You want it. Having as many tools at your disposal to make winning more likely is desirable. This game lacking an undo button is kind of ridiculous too because they don't even use the square button for anything. It's not like they didn't have an option, they just chose not to include it. This one's not worth it. For a lot of people, Klondike Solitaire is all they really need, but its lack of basic features make it miss the mark. It also gets monotonous with its single, repetitive music track during gameplay. It's been looping in my head since I played it yesterday. I think I'll fade out on it here and torture you.